In the warm embrace of a Brazilian summer evening, as the sun dipped low over the rolling hills of our small town in Minas Gerais, the air hummed with the distant chirp of cicadas and the faint rustle of palm leaves swaying in the gentle breeze. The temperature lingered around a comfortable 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but the humidity wrapped around you like a soft blanket, carrying the sweet scent of blooming jasmine mixed with the earthy aroma of red clay soil after a brief afternoon rain. Christmas was approaching, not with snow or frost, but with the vibrant green of mango trees heavy with fruit and the golden glow of string lights twinkling from verandas. In those days, long before the rush of shopping malls and wrapped packages under artificial trees, our family had a tradition that bound us closer than any gift could. We wrote letters to each other instead of buying presents. It was a ritual born from necessity in lean times, but it blossomed into something magical, filling our hearts with words that lingered far longer than any toy or trinket. I remember the protagonist of our story, young Anna, who was about 10 years old that year, her small hands already calloused from helping her grandmother in the garden. Anna's home was a modest house with whitewashed walls that reflected the fading sunlight, casting a warm orange hue across the wooden floors polished smooth from years of bare feet padding across them. The kitchen, the heart of the home, was alive with the sizzle of feijoada simmering on the stove, its rich, savory smell of black beans, pork, and spices wafting through every room, mingling with the sharp tang of fresh lime slices waiting on a cutting board. Her mother, Maria, hummed an old carol softly under her breath, her voice a soothing melody that rose and fell like the waves of the nearby river, while her father, João, sat at the worn oak table, his rough fingers tracing the edges of a blank sheet of paper. The light from a single kerosene lamp flickered gently, creating dancing shadows on the walls adorned with faded photographs of family gatherings past. Anna felt a flutter of excitement in her chest, a warm tingle that spread to her fingertips as she clutched her own piece of paper, the crisp texture cool against her skin despite the evening's warmth. "Mommy," she said, her voice soft and curious, laced with that innocent lilt common among children in our parts, where words flowed like a gentle stream, unhurried and full of warmth. "What should I write to Vovô this year? Something about the stars we saw last night." Maria turned from the stove, her apron dusted with flour from the pão de queijo she was kneading, and smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners with a tenderness that made Anna feel safe and loved. "Ah, my little one," Maria replied, her tone affectionate, with that rhythmic cadence that echoed the Portuguese roots in our speech, even though we spoke in English for the sake of sharing stories far and wide. "Write from your heart. Tell her how her stories make you feel, like the way the wind whispers secrets through the banana leaves. That's the best gift." As the days melted into one another, leading up to Christmas Eve, the town transformed into a symphony of sensations. The morning markets buzzed with the chatter of vendors, their voices rising in a harmonious blend of greetings and haggling, the air thick with the perfume of ripe guavas and the spicy kick of pimenta from the spice stalls. Anna would wander there with her brother, Pedro, who was 2 years older, his laughter ringing out like bells as they dodged through the crowds. The ground underfoot was uneven cobblestone, warm from the sun, and each step sent a faint vibration up her legs, grounding her in the moment. Pedro's hand in hers was sticky from the juice of a freshly peeled orange they shared, the citrus burst exploding on her tongue with a sweet tart zing that made her eyes water just a bit. Back home, the letter writing began in earnest. João would gather the family around the table after supper, when the sky outside had deepened to a velvety indigo, dotted with stars that twinkled like distant fireflies. The room grew cooler as night fell, a soft breeze slipping through the open windows, carrying the faint croak of frogs from the pond nearby. One by one, they would pen their thoughts, the scratch of pencil on paper a rhythmic underscore to the quiet confessions of love and gratitude. Anna wrote to her father first, describing how his strong arms felt like the safest place in the world when he lifted her onto his shoulders to pick mangoes, the rough bark scraping her knees lightly, the fruit's fuzzy skin brushing her cheek, its sticky sweetness dripping down her chin as they bit into it together. Tears would well in João's eyes when he read it later, though he hid them behind a gruff cough, the emotion thickening his throat like the humid air. Maria's letters were poetry in prose, evoking the sense of her childhood Christmases, the smoky aroma of roasted chestnuts from the street corners, even though in our tropical clime it was more about the grill of churrasco, the charred meat's savory allure mixing with the fresh cut of cilantro. She wrote to Anna about the first time she held her as a baby, the tiny weight in her arms, the milky scent of newborn skin, the overwhelming rush of love that felt like a warm wave crashing over her soul. Pedro, ever the mischief maker, infused his letters with humor, recounting escapades like the time they sneaked into the neighbor's yard to steal jabuticabas, the dark purple berries bursting with juicy tartness in their mouths, the thrill of getting caught sending giggles bubbling up from their bellies. The tradition extended beyond the immediate family. Neighbors joined in, exchanging letters under the communal Christmas tree in the town square, a towering araucaria pine adorned with handmade ornaments that swayed gently, their piney fragrance sharp and invigorating against the balmy night. The square was alive with the strum of violas from street musicians, the strings vibrating with melancholic tunes that spoke of saudade, that deep longing for times gone by. Lanterns hung from branches cast a golden light that danced on faces flushed with joy, and the touch of a friend's hand in greeting was firm and reassuring, palms slightly damp from the heat. As Christmas Eve arrived, the anticipation built like a storm on the horizon. The family dressed in their finest, simple cotton dresses for the women, starched shirts for the men, the fabric light and breathable against skin prickled with excitement. They walked to church under a canopy of stars, the gravel path crunching under their shoes, the night air cooler now, brushing their cheeks like a lover's whisper. Inside, the pews were hardwood, worn smooth, and the scent of incense curled lazily upward, heavy and sacred, mingling with the wax of candles flickering in rows, their flames warm points of light that chased away shadows. After Mass, they returned home for the revelation. Gathered in the living room, with the windows thrown wide to let in the chorus of night insects, they took turns reading aloud. The paper crinkled softly as it was unfolded, each word spoken with care, voices trembling with emotion. Anna's letter to her grandmother brought tears to everyone's eyes. She described the way Vovo's wrinkled hands felt like soft leather as they braided her hair, the scent of lavender soap clinging to her skin, the stories of old Christmases whispered in a voice husky with age, painting pictures of snowless winters filled with family warmth. Joao read Maria's letter to him, his voice breaking as he recounted her words of how his laughter filled the house like sunlight, banishing any gloom, how the calluses on his hands told stories of hard work and unwavering love. The room filled with a palpable warmth, not just from the bodies close together, but from the shared vulnerability, the air thick with unspoken affections now given voice. Pedro's turn brought levity, his tales of sibling adventures eliciting chuckles that rippled through the group, the sound bouncing off the walls like echoes in a canyon. But beneath the humor lay depth, admissions of admiration and the fear of growing apart, emotions that hung heavy, drawing sighs and nods of understanding. As the night wore on, the family lingered, the letters passed around again, fingers tracing the inked words as if to absorb their essence. The moon rose high, bathing the room in silvery light that filtered through lace curtains, cool and ethereal. Outside, fireflies blinked in the darkness, their tiny lights a mirror to the stars above. The scent of midnight snacks, freshly baked bolinhos de chuva, cinnamon sugar dusted fritters hot from the oil, their crispy exterior giving way to fluffy insides, filled the air, accompanied by the clink of glasses of guarana soda, fizzy and sweet on the tongue. In that moment, Anna felt a profound sense of connection, her heart swelling with a joy that was almost tangible, like the hug from her mother that followed, arms enveloping her in a cocoon of love and the faint floral perfume Maria always wore. This was Christmas, not in the glitter of presents, but in the ink-stained pages that captured souls. But the story deepened that year with an unexpected twist. Word had spread through the town about our family's tradition, and soon, letters arrived from unexpected places. A neighbor, Senora Rosa, whose husband had passed away the previous year, wrote to the family, her words trembling on the page like her voice would have, speaking of loneliness that felt like a cold draft in an empty room, and how watching our lights from her window brought a spark of hope. The paper bore faint stains, perhaps from tears, and as Maria read it aloud, the family's eyes glistened, the emotion raw and piercing, like a thorn in the heart. Inspired, they wrote back, each member contributing a line or two, weaving a tapestry of encouragement. Anna added how Senora Rosa's garden flowers always made her smile, their vibrant petals a burst of color against the green, the scent of roses carried on the wind reminding her of beauty in everyday things. Then came a letter from Tio Carlos, Joao's brother, who had moved to the bustling city of Sao Paulo years ago. The envelope was crisp, smelling faintly of urban rain and coffee from the cafes he frequented. His words evoked the contrast, the honk of cars replacing bird songs, the chill of air-conditioned offices instead of sun-warmed earth, but underneath ran a thread of nostalgia, longing for the simple Christmases of their youth. Reading it, Joao's shoulders tensed, then relaxed, a sigh escaping like steam from a pot, the weight of distance lifting slightly. The exchanges multiplied, turning the holiday into a web of connections. Children from the school wrote to elders, sharing dreams that smelled of adventure, like the sea salt from imagined beaches or the crisp air of mountain tops. Elders responded with wisdom, their letters carrying the musty scent of old books and the warmth of lived experience. One particularly moving letter came from Pedro to Ana, confessing his protective instincts, how her curiosity lit up his world like the fireworks on New Year's Eve, bursts of color and sound that filled the night sky with wonder. Anna's cheeks flushed hot as she listened, a mix of embarrassment and delight churning in her stomach like butterflies. As the clock ticked toward midnight, the family stepped outside onto the veranda, the wooden boards creaking underfoot, cool now from the night's embrace. The air was alive with the trill of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl, the stars overhead a vast blanket pinpricked with light. They held hands in a circle, the touch linking them physically as the letters had emotionally, and whispered thanks for another year. But the true magic unfolded when a surprise visitor arrived, an old friend of the family, Padre Miguel from the church, bearing a bundle of letters from the congregation. His robe swished softly as he walked, the fabric brushing against his legs, and his voice, deep and resonant, filled the space as he explained how the tradition had inspired the whole town. The letters were read under the moonlight, each one a gem of personal revelation. The baker's gratitude for shared recipes, the scent of fresh bread evoked in words, the teacher's pride in her students, their eager voices described as a chorus of hope. Tears flowed freely now, salty trails down cheeks, the emotion a cathartic release that left everyone feeling lighter, closer. The night air grew cooler, a gentle chill that raised goosebumps on arms, but the warmth inside burned bright. In the days following Christmas, the letters were tucked away in a special box, wooden and carved with floral patterns, its lid smooth from frequent openings. But their impact lingered, in the softer tones of conversations, the lingering hugs, the shared glances heavy with meaning. Years later, Anna would look back on that Christmas as the one that defined her understanding of giving, not with hands full of objects, but with hearts full of words. The sensory memories remained vivid, the crackle of paper, the aroma of home-cooked meals, the touch of loved ones, the sounds of laughter and tears intermingled. And so, in our small town, the tradition continued, a beacon of nostalgia in a world increasingly filled with material haste. It reminded us that the greatest gifts are those that cost nothing but time and truth, wrapping us in an enchantment that no store-bought present could match. As time passed, Anna grew into a young woman, her once childish hands now graceful, shaped by years of tending the garden and helping in the kitchen. The town had changed subtly, the cobblestone streets now echoed with more footsteps as families expanded, and the market stalls boasted brighter lights powered by electricity that had finally reached our remote corner. But the essence remained, especially at Christmas, when the air still carried the sweet promise of rain and the vibrant calls of tropical birds awakening at dawn. One year, when Anna was 16, the tradition faced its first real challenge. Her father, Joao, had fallen ill earlier in the fall, a persistent cough that rattled his chest like dry leaves in the wind, the sound echoing through the house at night, keeping everyone awake with worry. The doctor's visits brought the sharp smell of antiseptic into their home, a stark contrast to the usual comforting aromas of herbs and spices. Maria's face grew lined with concern, her movements slower, as if the weight of fear pressed down on her shoulders, making each step on the creaky floors feel heavier. Despite this, the letter-writing persisted, perhaps even more fervently. Anna sat by her father's bedside, the room dim with curtains drawn against the harsh afternoon sun, the light filtering in as soft golden rays that danced with dust motes. The air was thick with the medicinal tang of eucalyptus oil rubbed on his chest, mixed with the faint sweat of illness. She wrote to him of her dreams, how she wanted to become a teacher like Senora Almeida at school, inspiring children with stories that smelled of adventure and tasted of possibility. Joao, his voice weakened but still warm, dictated his replies, his breath coming in shallow wheezes that tugged at Anna's heart. "Tell your mother," he whispered, "that her strength is like the roots of the old mango tree, deep and unyielding, holding us all steady." The words, spoken slowly, carried the gravelly texture of his throat, each one a gift in itself. Pedro, now a young man working at the local farm, infused his letters with determination, promising to take on more to ease the burden, his handwriting bold and slanted, reflecting his energetic spirit. The paper absorbed the faint scent of soil from his hands, grounding the words in reality. Christmas Eve that year was subdued. The family gathered around Joao's bed instead of the table. The room was warmed by a small brazier, the coals glowing red and emitting a smoky heat that chased away the evening chill. Candles flickered on the nightstand, their wax dripping slowly, the scent of beeswax sweet and pure. As they read the letters, emotions swelled like a tide, the joy tempered with sorrow, laughter breaking through tears like sunlight piercing clouds. Maria's letter to Joao spoke of their first meeting at a town festival, the music of samba pulsing through the air, the touch of his hand as they danced, sweaty palms clasped, hearts racing in unison. Joao's eyes, misty, met hers, and in that gaze passed a lifetime of unspoken love, the air between them charged with tenderness. Anna's reading brought a moment of levity when she shared Pedro's anecdote about a mischievous goat at the farm, its bleats mimicking complaints, the feel of its coarse fur underhand as he chased it. Smiles cracked through the worry, the sound of chuckles a balm. But the pinnacle came when Joao, mustering strength, read a collective letter to the family, his voice gaining power with each word. He spoke of pride, of the legacy they were building, not with wealth, but with bonds that no illness could sever. The room filled with a profound silence afterward, broken only by soft sobs, the emotion wrapping around them like a shared embrace. Miraculously, Joao recovered in the new year, his cough fading like mist in the morning sun, and the tradition emerged stronger, a testament to resilience. The letters from that Christmas were cherished most, their pages worn from repeated readings, the ink fading but the sentiments eternal. As Anna ventured into adulthood, marrying a kind man named Lucas from a neighboring town, the tradition spread to her new family. Lucas, with his gentle demeanor and calloused hands from carpentry, embraced it wholeheartedly. Their home, a cozy cottage with a thatched roof that rustled in the wind, became a new hub for letter exchanges. The scent of fresh sawn wood mingled with Maria's recipes, creating a unique aroma that spoke of blending old and new. Their first Christmas together was a blend of nerves and excitement. Anna's belly fluttered with butterflies as she wrote to Lucas, describing the way his smile lit her world like the dawn breaking over the hills, the warmth of his arms around her at night, safe and enveloping, the sound of his heartbeat a steady drum against her ear. Lucas's letter in return evoked tears, his words painting the future they would build, children laughing in the yard, the patter of small feet on dirt paths, the taste of shared meals under starlit skies. Extended family gathered, the air alive with the babble of voices, the clatter of dishes as rabanada, French toast dusted with cinnamon, was passed around, its sugary crunch delightful. Letters were read amid the chaos, each one a thread strengthening the familial tapestry. Children entered the picture soon after. Little Sophia and Mateo, their tiny hands grasping pencils awkwardly at first, scribbling heartfelt notes that brought joyous laughter. Sophia's letter to Anna described her mother's hugs as soft like clouds, the scent of her hair like flowers after rain. The tradition evolved, incorporating drawings for the young ones, but always rooted in words that captured emotions too deep for speech. Town-wide exchanges grew, with annual gatherings in the square, bonfires crackling, sparks flying upward like wishes, the heat warming faces as letters were shared publicly, voices rising in a chorus of connection. Yet, nostalgia tinged these moments, a bittersweet ache for simpler times. Anna would feel it keenly, the pull of memory like a gentle tug on her heart, reminding her of childhood Christmases where the world felt infinite. In later years, as gray threaded her hair and her steps slowed, Anna became the matriarch, her home filled with grandchildren whose energy reminded her of Pedro and herself. The letters continued, bridging generations, each one a vessel for love, regret, hope, and forgiveness. One final Christmas, surrounded by family, the air thick with the aroma of panettone and the sound of carols sung off-key, but with gusto, Anna read a letter from her great-granddaughter, words that echoed her own youthful sentiments, closing the circle. In that warmth, she closed her eyes, the touch of hands on hers, the emotions swelling, knowing the tradition would endure, a timeless gift of the heart.